Are we on? Are we on properly? Somebody tell me in the chart, please. Let's have a look. Am I doing it right? Which is the title of the thing. So that's good, isn't it? Is there anybody there? I'm looking at stream chat. Let's have a look. Oh, hello. Hi. Oh, that's brill. We're here, aren't we? Is everything going to plan? I don't have, am I echoing? Is it repeating 15 times or am I doing this right? Somebody give me some reassurance. Am I doing it right? Tell me. Brilliant. Somebody said I was all good. That means I've not accidentally, just shared all my personal details or something like that. Now, what I'm trying to do today, and I don't know if this will work, because our Tom showed me how to do it, where you go, I'll show you what I mean. Where when my lovely guest arrives, Mr. Jack Manifold, hold on, just one sec. I'll show you where I am before we go any further. Look, I'm in the lounge. There's our Bets on the sofa. I'm sat in my nest on the sofa. I brought Dolly with me downstairs just to give me a bit of support. Because, look, and there's Bob Boone, my favourite baboon lamp. Can you see it? And there's Dolly. Yes, I do have a full life-size cutout of Dolly Parton, because why wouldn't you? If you had the chance, why wouldn't you take it? That's what I think. Right, I'm just going to get myself a bit organised. Is that good? Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. When Mr. Jack Manifold pitches up, I'm going to go like this. Woo! He's going to be on that side, not both of us, right? So that's my plan. So we go back to this one first. I know, I'm doing very well, aren't I, technical wise? I've had to have our Tom on the phone with me FaceTime pointing it at the screen going, oh, which is this bit? What do I press now? But I think we're there. So, just have a little drink. Is everybody all right? What day is it? Thursday. Is everybody okay? Having a good week? You having a lovely week? Oh, I start work tomorrow. Who's this? Was it Sea House? Oh, well, good luck. You'll be marvellous. Had an injection today. Well, I hope you're all right. I hope you're okay. I sprained my back. Oh. Do you know, when you're my age, you can sprain your back just by having a cough. In my 20s and in my teens, honestly, I was practically a stunt woman. Could throw myself around all over the place. Nothing happened. Nowadays, I sneeze wrong and that's a couple of ribs gone. But, who's on spring break? Oh, lovely. You had your first assignment of term this week. Who's that? Beth does cosplays. I've just got one of my essays in yesterday. It's stressful. I did another degree a couple of years ago and now I'm doing a master's and in psychology, and it's really complicated and really hard, but I'm really enjoying it. But I always get myself in a right stress when it's essay time, and I normally put it off. Hey, up, Betty's on the move. I normally put it off, but this time I got it done a week in advance, so I'm quite up myself. I did an English exam. Who's that? Felix. I hope it went really, really well. Just submitted one of my first essays of the term. Hooray! Get it in! You've done it! Hurrah! An essay's kicking my butt. Who's that? Mystical mushrooms. Yeah, some of mine are. Some of mine have been where, I would just rather throw my computer out the window and pretend that it's not happening. Got my psychology mock next week. That's echo great. Well, fingers crossed. I hope it goes really, really well. Who likes writing essays? It's gone. Somebody that really liked writing essays. You see, here's the thing, I put it off and put it off, and then when I start it, I normally get right into it and I really enjoy it, and then I get cross with myself that I haven't done it for ages, that I've dragged it out, and now I'd get myself all stressed. So I'm just going to have a little check on my phone because Jack Manifolds might message me and say that I've done it wrong, because I may well have. Let's have a look. Hello. Let's have a look. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit first about what we're talking about today. So, this is about, put a little tweet out saying, sorry, you're all over the place. I'm chucking you all over, aren't I? It's because you balanced on cushions, because I'm in my cushion nest with Betster down there. Hi, Bets! Yeah, this stream today is really about how to get started as an adult. Thinking about all the things that might be quite stressful, thinking about that transition. Maybe it's a transition from finishing from 16 to 18. You might be finishing GCSEs and choosing what to do next, after you've done your A levels. So that's 16 and 18 for people who are not in the UK. Maybe you're leaving, maybe you're thinking about going to university or going to college or something like that, and you're thinking about that transition. Maybe it's about leaving home and leaving your family, or leaving people that you've been around for ages, and maybe you're thinking about that. Or it could be that you're getting ready to leave college, and that's going to be like your first time into the big world sort of thing. We're going to look at all those transitions, all those different things, and me and Jack are going to chat about it. Right, let's have a look. So I may well have done this wrong, but until he's here, we'll get cracking. So yeah, so all of these things, I made a few notes in my notebook. Look, it's my it's in Latin. Nolite te bastardes carborundum, which means, that's right. So there's lots of different things, aren't there, to do with navigating this huge transition time between, as you're turning into an adult. So kind of between, it's up to you when you're an adult, but kind of between the ages of 16 and 25, there's so many changes and there's so many things to work out, that it's no one, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all, that's probably an appropriate response. There's a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of stuff that's that you might not have experienced before. So let me just say as well, this whole idea of feeling like an adult, feeling like a grown-up, I'm 50, right? And I'm still waiting to feel like an adult, still waiting to feel like a grown-up. And sometimes, sorry, Betty was doing a little bit of a cough. Sometimes I find myself going, oh, look at me, all grown up, when I've done something like folded all the towels and put them away, or I've driven into a new city that I haven't been in before and I've been fine. Betty! Or something like that. And I hear myself saying, oh, get you, what a grown up. And I think, bloody hell, I'm 50 years old. If I'm still at this age thinking, when am I going to be a grown up? It kind of makes sense that that people who are actually on that path are having a bit of, might be having a bit of a moment too. And that's fine. So the three things that I would say are, number one, what I've just said, which is you might never feel like a grown up. So if you're waiting for that day to come where you go, yeah, I've got it all. I know what I'm still carting around a full size blooming Dolly Parton for comfort, and shouting at a whippet. That the day might never come when you feel like a grown up. It might not. I'm still waiting any time now. Do you know what I mean? the second thing I'd say is be kind to yourself. Be really, really kind. These are big things. Moving from 16 to sort of to 18 to into college to 25 to leaving home, These are really big things. It's a change in might be a change in what you do day to day. It might be a location change. You might be going somewhere else in the country. It might be a change of like friends. It might be parents. You might not be around parents and that sort of thing. Everything that's familiar changes. I'm just going to message Jack. Just a sec. Are you able to join the thing? I'm on now. Right, hang on. I'll tell him. Let me know if there's a problem because I might have done something wrong. It's exciting, this, isn't it? It's so entertaining just watching me message blooming Jack Manifolds. Even the chuffing Google things asking me if I'm still here. No, I am still here. I'll stay in the call. I'll wait for him. Let me know if I've done something. Oh! Hang on. Here we go. Here he is. Right. Brace yourself because I'm going to try and do this. How do I do this? Hang on. Hello?
Hey, Sarah, you all right?
Hi, babes, you all right?
Yeah, good, thank you. Eleanor's here as well.
Hi, Eleanor, you all right, love?
Yeah, how
are you? Oh, good, thank you. I'm just going to try and get you joining on because I'm live.
I know, no, I'm watching. I've had an eye on it the whole time.
Oh, cool. Right, everybody brace yourself. I'm going to try and do this. Hopefully, as I say, I'm not going to share my bank details.
No,
Right,
best of luck. I'm sure you'll make it.
Oh, what do I do? Need to make this forward. Oh, hang on.
Oh, hang on. No, we can. I'm sure. Oh.
What do I do? I'm doing something daft, aren't I? What do I do with this to make it bigger?
I don't know. How did? Now this is now difficult to explain. Did you?
Oh, hold on. I might get this. I think we might be on a. There's your head.
Oh, there's my head.
Not very good at technicals. Hang on.
No, it's all right. It's fine.
I'm trying my best. It's all I can do.
It's not what we're here to teach people about, is it?
Hold technical on. Stuff. I'll
It's my bald head. It's all right.
Hang on. I'll do this.
Oh, hang on.
Right.
I reckon we'll get there. I reckon we will. I
don't know what to do.
Did you have it full screen at some point? No. If you full screen it, how does it look? I know you won't be able to see, but I can tell you.
Hang on. Right.
Let's have a look. Oh no, that is not. That don't come through on stream properly.
Okay. You've got more northern because you're talking to me, Jack Manifold.
Well, yeah, and Eleanor, and both of you are from Yorkshire, which really, really then drags it out. So there's a bit of me there.
Oh, bloody hell. Right, what if I make it really... But why am I there? How do I get rid of me?
Oh, yeah.
Are you making it bigger? Are you zooming it in?
I'm trying to get rid of me. Oh! Right.
Hang on.
Yeah, hang on.
Hang on. Oh! I'm here. If I sit up really straight,
right.
I
now,
fit in
if
the
I
frame.
make it smaller... Hey, there we go.
There we go.
It's not perfect, but I've done my best.
That's not bad. I'm happy with that. If you're happy with that, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I am. Can everybody see what they're meant to see now?
From what I can tell, everyone can see what they're meant to see.
Brilliant. And thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Eleanor. It's lovely to see you, babes.
Yeah, you too.
Look, I've done this wrong. I've gone off in the wrong direction. I've got to go over here. Oh, shit. Right.
It's all right. You made it.
Right. We're somewhere near ready to do chats.
We are.
So today, we're talking about that transition between sort of 16 to 25 sort of time when you're leaving, becoming an adult sort of thing. And I know that, Jack, I don't know about you, Eleanor. Can I ask you questions as well?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you. And I know that you've had a bit of sort of a traditional trajectory, Jack. We're doing school and then A levels and thinking about university.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let's start by talking a little bit about school. about what it was like,
Sure.
the things that were issues to you around the age of choosing what you're going to do for what you thought you were going to do for a job, how you chose your subjects, how you thought, the plans, what your plans were. And
Sure.
Eleanor too, please do. I'd love to know your experience as well, babes.
Yeah. So no, so I did my GCSEs. I was always one of the young ones who like is always like a year behind everyone else in terms of age. So I finished my GCSEs when I was 15. And I did really well. I did really well in school, which obviously helps in terms of feeling like you can sort of pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
Which was nice. And I decided to pick the subjects that I'd done the best in and sort of enjoyed the most as a sort of like, I wish I'd gone with what I enjoyed the most, realistically, being where I am now. But at the time, I sort of let what I was good at influence my decision probably more than I should have done. But I did really well in maths, physics, and computer science. So I did those. And I did those at A level. And then I found throughout that maths was fine and I was fine at it, but I didn't really enjoy it particularly. Like, I don't know. I'm sure that there are people out there that do. I couldn't seem to find any passion in maths. Like, it's just numbers at the end of the day.
I think you've already touched on something super important, which is like focusing on the thing that you really love doing. Because then it's not going to feel, like really hard graft, is it? Or if it is, you'll love doing that work.
Yeah, that was the thing I realized. I really did enjoy computer science and physics, to be fair. I enjoyed them both a lot. And I found that I didn't mind, especially when a topic came up that really, really interested me. There was certain, like, obviously there's always like things that are less interesting, more interesting within certain topics. I found I really, really did like find it really easy to do and just really enjoyed it. And I wish then that like our school offered like a film studies class that now doing what I do, especially, but also bearing in mind just like what I really enjoy, had wish I'd done just purely off of enjoyment. But at the time I had this sort of idea in my head that I'm like, oh, well, what, like realistically, what am I going to do with it? And what I've learned now is that I probably could have done quite a lot actually. But at the time I saw a much clearer path with like physics, maths, the traditional sort of like.
What path did you think you were going to go down?
I was doing an apprenticeship to become a software engineer up until I quit to do Twitch streaming. But I was in the midst of that when I quit.
Wow, thank you. How about you, Eleanor? What were you like around that age, and what things were stressful in your world when you were kind of 16 to 18 and that around that sort of age?
Yeah. You know what? I had a pretty easy like high school experience. Well, not really, but whatever. Got my GCSEs fine. My kind of biggest issue came when I was in college. I got really, really bad anxiety and I actually had to drop out of college. And for me, that felt like the end of the world at the time. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. So for that, you need like biology, you need your sciences, you need to be like proper smart and go to uni and everything. And I had to drop out of college after like 2 months because I was just too anxious. It was too overwhelming. And I felt like my world crumbled around me because I was like, I don't get to be a psychiatrist anymore. But honestly, I'm really glad it happened because obviously I've become a YouTuber. But even if I hadn't have become a YouTuber, I would have made it work. And that's what I've realized now is like at the time it felt like the end of the world. I felt like everyone else around me was gonna have their A levels. They were gonna be ahead of me. But now I kind of like, now that I'm older and I've met so many different people that have had so many different paths, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many different things that you can do in life. You don't have to be like college educated to be able to get good jobs that you enjoy or that are high paying or whatever. Like the world in the 21st century is like, you can actually do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to think about like lifelong learning. Just because at 18 you weren't ready to do, I failed all my A levels. I was going to drama school, so I didn't care. Just wasted 2 years, which was ridiculous. And I wasn't ready for academia then. And I love academic stuff now.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, you were an English teacher, right?
Yeah, I was an actor and musical theatre and telly and that kind of thing. And then I was a TV writer, and then after I had Tom, I wanted to be at home more. So I went to a college. My idea was I needed something to get me out the house and put my mascara on rather than being at home all the time
Right.
with little
Yeah.
Tom. And not that it wasn't lovely, it was, but I just needed to do. I needed to do something, and I couldn't be like freelance like I had been before and all over the place when you've
Yeah.
got a little baby. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do a course. Do you know what? It was the day when I went to see the. This is ridiculous as I say it out loud. The Dalai Lama was on tour, and he came to Nottingham. And me
The
and my
Dalai
friend
Lama?
went. Yeah, me and my friend. He
Wow.
was at the arena, and me and my friend went to see the Dalai Lama. And we got, we had the audience with the Dalai Lama, and then we went for a pizza and a wine afterwards. And she went, "Why don't you try teaching?" And I went, "Okay." And that was it. I think I was a bit suggestible because I just had like a full day of listening to lovely Dalai Lama, going on about.
It's funny that you say that because I found that recently I've been thinking about without going into too much detail because I've not really spoken about it like much yet, like different directions for things, like sort of like I'm like trying to decide where I want to go with certain things. And me and Tom, funnily, have been watching. I don't know if you know about this. I don't know whether he's told you. We've been watching David Lynch.
Yeah.
We've been watching David Lynch talk about like creativity and ideation and all this. And I feel like it's made me so inclined to just like try things in a way that I wouldn't be. And I completely get that sort of like the idea of being like hearing someone sort of talk about what I imagine was quite transcendental stuff.
Yeah. And
And
then
like
going,
that. Yeah, what I can do anything. Like it
yeah. Well,
definitely does
the
give me that
idea was
feeling.
for me to get out the house and put my mascara on a couple of hours a week to do some lectures about something.
Yeah.
And when I started actually teaching, I bloody loved it. Really loved it, and it was in FE colleges and in alternative provisions for. It was young men actually who had been excluded from schools.
Right.
And so there were quite full-on places that I was teaching, but I loved the behaviour stuff, which got me into doing more and more of that. But this whole idea of education, work, retirement, this 3-point plan is completely outdated.
Oh God, yeah.
It's that you finish at 80, you finish school at 16 or 18, and then you work and then you retire. And it's just not like that anymore, is it? You can have 10 careers. You can go back to college, you can do all sorts of different things, and the age limit isn't something that does hold you back anymore.
Not only that, but I feel like I feel like if your outlook on work is to do it so that you can retire, you possibly aren't in the right field. Like being someone that really enjoys what I do, I have no sort of idea like, oh, one day I really wish to retire. I want to do this for as long as I can. I'm sure there'll come a day where I go, enough's enough. But like, I don't think at that point I'll sit on my laurels and read a bunch. Like, I imagine I'll do something else. You know what I mean? Like, I think retirement as a concept even is sort of financial retirement. I think is ideal. To stop worrying about money and livelihood is a blessing. But in terms of actually retirement from feeling that you have a job and responsibility, I think is possibly not the thing we should be looking for.
Yeah. And I mean, we're speaking from kind of a position of some privilege.
Oh, of
that we're not
course.
doing.
Yeah,
I suspect if you're doing, as I have done in the past, minimum wage jobs, some of which I bloody loved and all.
Oh God, I worked complete minimum wage when I worked doing my IT apprenticeship, and I loved it, but I was paid pennies.
And for that to go on for your life, I can imagine that you are absolutely desperate for retirement.
Of course, yeah, I can imagine as well.
But what about you, Eleanor? Have you done some job? Well, there's job and there's career, isn't there?
Hi.
Have you done some jobs?
No, I actually haven't, because calling back to, I was so anxious that I dropped out of college. I luckily, just to be fair, because I had dropped out of college, I didn't have anything to do with my days. All my friends were still in college and I was just in the house by myself. And I'm not the kind to let myself wallow. So I was like, I need a project for every day. So I would get out of bed and just make a YouTube video of me doing my makeup or something. And then by the time I'd kind of recovered my anxiety, I feel like gaining a YouTube audience also helped me to recover that anxiety as well, because I'd run into people on the street that would just randomly know who I am, and I would have to then engage in a social situation, and it was really good training for me, I guess, to be like out in social situations again.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing that you were in this really difficult place, and your way of sort of coping turned into this brilliant career, and
Yeah,
kind of addressed the anxiety stuff as well, which
yeah.
it can be really tough, can't it?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most important things for people like suffering with anxiety especially, but probably with anything. I always when people come to me with questions and stuff, because I've been quite vocal about this online, people come to me with questions like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, try to find a hobby or develop a skill, like work on some part of yourself that you really, really love, and then hopefully you can then make that your thing. Like I've managed to, and like I said before, like in the 21st century when the internet's a thing, you can make like anything a career pretty much.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a creator, but there's like ways to sell things online if you have a skill or a hobby that you make something. There's
Yeah.
Etsy,
Oh, of
there's
course.
all
There's
sorts
all
to do
sorts.
these days.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just focus on something that you love, and that'll help to pass the time. It'll help you to grow as a person, and then hopefully you get a good job that you enjoy and it pays well. Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Let's talk about actually, and I don't know if it'll be different for both of you two, actually leaving home. So,
Sure.
different, different sort of location, different friends, different relationships, different, all the basic stuff. Different. If you go into a different location, it's like, where's the supermarket? Where do I, or just normal things like that, and all the kind of, are you gonna fit in with that group? Are you going to be happy with that new group that you're around? And it might be going to college, it might be going to university, it might be leaving home completely, like you and our Tom did, to move to Brighton. There's those concerns about, are you going to be lonely? There's a million what ifs. What were you most concerned about when you left home?
For me, I moved out. Like the good thing was I moved out because I wanted to, right? Which I feel like some people are in a position where they feel a necessity. So like, and there's two ways of doing that. Either the household situation isn't great, people want out as soon as possible, which is obviously a very negative one. Or with sort of university, a lot of people feel a sort of necessity to move closer to the cities they want to study in. And I never had that. When I was very briefly enrolled in a degree apprenticeship, and I did that through NTU, which I lived in Mansfield. It was about 30 minutes away, and it was during the pandemic. So even though I had initially planned on traveling the 30 minutes, but then the pandemic hit and it was all done from home. So I never had any concerns about having to travel or be nearer the place I needed to study. So that it's not something I can comment on too much. But
moving from home to
to a new
Brighton,
place,
and starting a new life.
yeah, I think I was fortunate, and I think my advice would be, if you are in a position to, like, there is no rush. Like, if you are comfortable in your home situation, there's no rush to, like, you didn't move out till you were 21. Like, there's no necessity to rush out of home. And I think if you're capable, if you manage to study at a city nearby, then there's no need to move out unless you want to. And I think the best way to decide whether you want to move to a place, which is what I did with Brighton, is there were people there I wanted to be around, and I'd been there and visited, and I loved what it was about, and the sort of, like, I loved that there was independent shops everywhere. I never loved that I was near the beach, and I liked the sort of quaint little pubs, and like there were so many things that I just really enjoyed about the place. And I think my thing was, I sort of had less doubt because I'd been a few times and I knew the people, and I sort of, like, I eased into the move. I didn't just go, all right, I'm going to Brighton, never been before, I'm just going to get a house and do it.
Like that.
Hi, mum.
That. So long, bitches.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I slowly started going down and staying for like longer and longer periods. I go for a week or whatever, and I'd see people. And then eventually, when I did move, I think one of the things I did, which again, this is very circumstantial, but like, Scott Smager, who people in chat might know, I don't know if you're familiar with Sarah, but he was also looking to move to Brighton because it like kind of slowly became the hub for people who were doing the same thing as us to be. So Scott was like, I also want to move to Brighton. we lived relatively close by in the first instance. I lived in Mansfield, he lived in Sheffield, so it wasn't that far. And we went, all right, me and you, we'll live together. We get on well enough. Like, we weren't like best friends in the whole world, but we got on well enough that we're like, we can definitely live together. And the benefit for me was he was an adult who was 25 and had lived by himself for years, and I never lived by myself. And I kind of moved out of a home where I had adults sort of looking after me and catering for me. And I moved to a place where I was kind of looking after myself, but there was an adult who I could go, Scott, I don't know how washing machines work. And he could teach me. And I think if you're in a position where you can sort of make sure that you still have a bit of a lifeline with someone who can, like, because you thing is, you think you know what you're doing, and then you move out and you go, wait, shit, I don't know how oven chips work, or like something stupid, because you will.
Hey, let me tell you this, speaking of washing machines, our Tom will kill me, but I don't care.
Oh,
these things ever.
I can only guess.
No, it was just so daft. Not long after he'd moved out, he rung up one night going, oh my God, all my clothes are pink. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, I've done that thing where I put my red jumper in with all my white t-shirts and everything's gone pink. And I thought that was just something that happened on films. I didn't know it was in real life. And he died. All of his t-shirts, all of his white t-shirts were pink. Anything pale. I was like, what do you mean you thought it was just in films? Does like dye and colour only work in films, not in real life?
Yeah, and this is the thing. I think this is another bit of advice. If you're in a position where you have people around you, you can ask questions. Just fucking ask them. Don't put yourself through the heartache of losing all your white clothes. Like the second I have to do laundry, he
still wore all his pink t-shirts. That he
I can imagine he did. Care, you know? But, I remember the first time I ever went to do washing by myself. I rang up my mum like, right, give me the lowdown. How's this work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I made sure I didn't do anything daft. And I think it's just like, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Also, can I add, Google and YouTube are your best friends.
True. If you don't have people to ask,
they know the answers for everything ever. That's how I first learned how to change a light bulb, you know? YouTube tutorial.
Was it?
I don't think I've ever changed a light bulb. I think I could do it, but I never had to. All my lights have been good.
There was one time where he was doing some cooking and he was getting a bit, we were trying to talk him through it. We had him on FaceTime and it was properly like, you know, and he was showing us what he was doing as he was cooking, and it was like, you know, those things when a plane's about to crash and somebody on the ground has to talk them down how to do
control.
it. Yeah, because the pilot's fainted or something. It was properly like that, but you know, with spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah. I mean, Tom's been cooking for me recently. He keeps cooking for me before we watch David Lynch.
He's doing quite well, isn't he?
He's not bad. He's learning. He is learning. He made a really nice curry the other night.
Oh.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
How about you, Eleanor? What was that like leaving home?
For me, yeah, pretty easy. Kind of the same situation that we were very lucky to be able to kind of make the move in our own time.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say one of the things that was a struggle for me was like building my own social circle here.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've learned to help with that is to just believe in myself. The more I do it, the more evidence that I get that I am capable of being a good social presence and making friends. And I think it's easier than you think it is. Like, I feel like people put such a weight on how other people are viewing them, and I feel like people overthink it a lot. And it's like, to be fair, I think about my own experiences, and when I meet new people, I'm like, how often do I come away from that thinking they were really weird, or like, I don't want to hang out with them again? Never. Like, I feel like I always, like, unless you've been like bad.
Yeah, it's sort of actively very jarring. Yeah.
If you've actually done something bad, then fairs, but like you haven't
it's very difficult to go out with good intentions and do something that detrimental that you like ruin your social status forever.
Yeah.
Like that just isn't, like, that's an anxiety that people have, but like, it's very unrealistic.
And also, you're the star of your own film. You're concerned about what's happening to you and around you, and all those anxieties that are, you know, like a washing machine in your head, are about you. The person the person you sat next to might be having those same things.
They're thinking about themselves,
about them, not about you. You know, you're the star of your own show. Nobody else is.
This is one of the things I learned very quickly, was like, it's very easy to say something, realize it was like you got what you wanted to say a bit wrong, and like overthink it. No one knows at all what's going off in your head, and they probably didn't think twice about the words that came out of your mouth. And you will probably sit and think about it for about half an hour. They will probably think about it once and never think about it again for the rest of their life. Like, it really isn't it's so hard because you're the most significant person in your own life.
Yeah.
And that isn't a selfish thing. That's just
yeah.
human nature. Like, it's so difficult to like understand perspective of like, you are not the most significant person in anyone else's world.
Yeah.
And they will not overanalyze everything about you the way you will. So it really isn't worth that time.
One of the positive things I'd like to talk about is the idea of reinvention when you leave school, when you go to college,
Sure.
when you go to university, when you leave university, or whatever, you know, part of that journey you're on. When you go somewhere new that nobody else knows you, and you know, you're all in the same place doing something similar as far as education, or you know, as far as what you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, this is just work, I suppose.
You can be who you want to be. If you weren't the person that you wanted to be at home because of whatever, if there were you know, stresses at school to do with friendship groups or being popular, as soon as you leave that school, nobody cares. You know, nobody puts on the CV or tells you from the age of 20 onwards, or even before that, I was really popular at school. Everybody loved me. I had loads of friends. No one cared. You know, it's only in these kind of situations where there's no clear hierarchy. You know, if there's 30 students together and there's no hierarchy, then you have to build. Then the hierarchy is built through who does what. You know, what group you're in, how those groups interact together. Who's kind of a higher status and a lower status. All of that shit doesn't really exist once you're mainly out of school, because I mean, I'm sure it exists to a point within uni, but it's something that you can back off from because you're not there as much and you're not in each other's pockets as much, and you know, and you have a lot more of your own agency. So I really love the idea of reinvention. When you go to a new place, when you start a new thing, what do you think about that?
I agree with you completely that, like, yeah, I think you absolutely have the opportunity, especially when going to a new. I think realistically, you have this opportunity whenever. You can always reinvent yourself at any time.
Yeah.
But I think a move is a really nice time to do that because there's all of a sudden there's no responsibility to sort of account for the past because no one knows whatever your past might be. And I'm not saying necessarily that is like if you have a terrible past, run away from it. Like, that's not really what I'm encouraging so much as, like, you know, sort of you build relationships over the years and sort of people have ideas about people. And although you can work to unwind those and reinvent yourself at any time, a move kind of just eliminates that responsibility and you can just kind of begin what you want to do without ever having to consider what the past was like. And that's really.
And it might not actually be a reinvention. It might be you actually being the person that you know you are, that you haven't been able to be in those previous circumstances.
Yeah, this is the thing. A reinvention of your sort of public self is not necessarily a reinvention of who you are fundamentally. In fact, often it's usually making who you present to be more akin to who you are fundamentally.
Yeah, it's like your inside trying to break to your outside.
Yeah, that was a much easier way of putting what I tried to say. Thank you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? You know, starting afresh. It being. Sorry, I'm just moving this about, so I'm not because I keep going in the wrong direction.
It's all right.
Eleanor, what do you think about that whole kind of? Do you think it's different from a female perspective than it is from a male one? The whole idea of becoming the self that you want to be. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to. I popped a couple of jumbones down my knockers because I thought the dogs were going to come pestering, and I thought if they see I've got jumbones, they'll just come galloping up. So I shall hide them, which I did. But now they're irritating me, and so now I've had jumbones down the knockers, and nobody cares. The dogs certainly don't. Anyway, what were I on about? Brilliant. Oh, female perspective. That's what reminded me of knockers.
Yeah, I just started keeping dog treats down my knockers. I don't. You know what? You know what? I haven't done as much reinvention as I have just becoming more myself with every change that I make in life. I feel like whether a change is a permanent one or a temporary one, it tests you in varying levels, and I think that's how you develop yourself. So even if you're not actively and consciously reinventing yourself, you do find yourself being reinvented in a positive way. Like every single thing that you go through, you grow from and you learn from. And I've just found myself becoming closer to the person I want to be with every like change, and every time I've come out of my comfort zone. And like, I don't know, it's I don't think I've ever tried to do anything as intentionally as I have been like, I want to reinvent myself to be happier or to be more like Ellie, like, you know.
Yeah, I think overall, like just to comment that generally, obviously I can't speak on like women's perspective, but like generally, I found over the years I've lived here, I've changed so much as a person, and not for any reason other than just like perspective.
How
Like
have you changed? How have you changed, Jack?
Positively, as sort of a net sort of term, but in turn, I'm more confident and I'm more willing to sort of. I don't know. I feel more socially confident than I ever was in school. I always felt like I never felt like I was like bad socially, but like I was definitely not one of the like the popular kids. And like there's such a weird social hierarchy in schools where like if you're not one of the popular kids, it's like easy to believe that you are a bit of like a social reject, and like it's so like not the case. Like I'm just
Can we just say again that as soon as you leave school, nobody
that disappears
cares.
entirely.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares. So if you're in the middle of one of those hierarchy, who's important, who's a loser, who's a this, who's a that, who's like the queen, all of that. The second you leave school, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
That's one thing that, like, I remember being told but not quite believing. If you're in that position where you're listening to us say this and you're like, yeah, right, like there's going to be hierarchies for the rest of my life. There is, but not in the way that there is in school.
No, school's ridiculous.
Absolutely not. Like once you leave school, you feel freed. It's like the real world is so much different to that.
It's just so broad. Like school, you are so restricted to like essentially like your entire world gets constricted into the entire like the amount of people you can fit in one building, and like your entire world becomes like people that exist within these confines, and like a little bit broader, but like generally speaking, the majority of your time is spent with people from this place. And all of a sudden, when you go out into the real world, and like say you are someone who like maybe wasn't one of the most popular people in school, you are going to find when you go out into the greater world and just like intrinsically gravitate towards people that are like yourself, and you will find social circles, and you'll realize you will socially flourish, but just maybe not in like the environment that school encouraged, or what I found is I really flourished when I surrounded myself with sort of kind of nerdy people that like get really interested and passionate about really weirdly specific things.
People that are like you.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things as well, because school is so restrictive to the same like 100 people in your year. You don't quite find your people until you get
There's
out
probably
of
like two or
school.
three. Like realistically, like if you're lucky, you've got two or three people you really, really resonate with.
Yeah, and chances are you're not in the same classes as them as well.
Yeah,
like if you do have a big year group, yeah, you might like there might be a couple of people that are into the same things as you, but chances of you actually becoming besties are low. But when you get out of school and you start connecting with people on your actual interests, that's when you start to gather your people, gather your tribe.
You refine your social, you refine your like your world to people that you want to spend time around, as opposed to people you're required to spend time around.
Yeah.
Like is generally what happens.
I'll tell you what's different now, because I properly remember, but this is before social media, before the internet. When I left, I didn't fail my A levels. Then went to drama school in London and did 3 years at drama school, and then graduated. And you know, at that point, it was we'd done this big graduation performance in one of the big West End theatres where there was loads of agents, and the whole thing was about getting an agent. And you know, some of us got offered lots of agents. That was brilliant. So after those couple of days of, and that was it. That was the end of college. And after those couple of days of, who's rung you? What agent? You know, it was before mobile phones even. How many offers did you get? Did you get any offers? Is there anybody that you want to get? All of that. A few days after all that died down, of us ringing each other and talking to each other about it, I remember it properly hitting me that, hang on, if I want to see my friends, I've got to ring them, and I've got to do something, and I've got to arrange something.
You won't just run into them again.
Yeah. It's just not going to happen. And, you know, as I say, before social media, before you could have those groups, before WhatsApp, before all of that, if you wanted to meet somebody, you had to ring them, and you had on your landline, and you had to make a time and place you were meeting, and if you did, and you met there, and then
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And so it was just this massive realization, and I don't know why it hadn't entered my head before, that kind of that social interaction that you take for granted, whether or not you like the environment that you're in.
Sure.
That social interaction that's just built for you at school and at college or at uni. Once that finishes, it's up to you. And there's loads of positives in that, but there's also, it can be quite daunting.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I hope that it's less kind of isolating now, that there are those things that, different groups you can join online and different, ways of keeping in touch.
I think there's a lot of positives and negatives of social media, but I think absolutely, like, the one positive is, to a degree, that the social part of social media is a reality. Like the idea that you can, at the push of a button, find like-minded people, where historically, like, you had to go to places and go to clubs and, like, find, basically just go into environments that felt right for you and pray that you found someone there that maybe was like yourself. Where with the internet, you spend 15 minutes, find a group online that I'm like, yep, resonate with that, and probably make a bunch of friends that will last you a lifetime really quickly. But obviously, there's all the sort of shit that comes with being on the internet as well.
Yeah.
But there is that major positive of, in this age, like day and age, there's not that fear of when you leave school, you really have to do a lot of work to maintain a social circle. Like now, you've got this thing in your pocket that can kind of maintain a lot of that at relatively low effort.
Yeah, you can have all your friends in one group chat, and with one message, you've communicated with them all. And I think that's so helpful. Like, I mean, we don't know any different. So,
No, we don't. That's
which
true.
I'm very grateful for. But I think, yeah, especially like when you move out on your own and you're like, crap, I've got to now like actively try to meet people.
Yeah.
It is daunting at first, but it's something that you pick up quite quickly, I think. I think you get
Oh, God,
used
yeah.
to being like, okay, who am I going to see this week? I'll send my messages. You know, at first you're like, oh my God, there's no like built-in social time. What am I going to do? But then you get used to it.
Yeah.
And I think what you've touched on there is that you have to make an effort to, well, you don't have to, but to if that's the situation you want to be in, you have to make an effort.
Yeah, you have to
It is
you
about
have to
that.
work
It is about
towards
working
whatever
towards it.
social
And
sort of thing you want.
and there's quite a lot of research that says social interaction is one of the things to keep that, helps with mental health, helps keeping you happy. There's a really good book that's just a really long-term study about happiness, and that's one of the key things. And it might not be having your BFF and doing all of that shit and going to Alton Towers. It might be that you go to the gym and you say hello to the receptionist, and you go into the gym and you say hello to it. Might be that you go to the shops and do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be. It might be that you walk your dog and you say hello to somebody else who's got a dog. It doesn't necessarily have to be these huge intense relationships. The social interaction might just be really casual, but you've interacted with another person. And even if you're somebody who kind of lives online, which, is also, it's great. I don't think that if that's something that you like doing, then I don't think that's a problem.
If you're managing that in a healthy way, absolutely. I think there's the danger with the online space that it can very quickly become sort of obsessive and unhealthy. Especially, I mean, this is something obviously being, I assume you agree with me, that like being in the position we're in, especially, it's very easy to develop an unhealthy relationship with sort of the internet. But I think as long as you make an effort to make sure that relationship is positive, then there's no harm at all in spending a lot of your time online.
A lot of, but I would say it is important to still try getting that like outside interaction.
Oh God,
Yeah,
no,
definitely. As much as you want to hope that, like, I don't know, all your friends are online, and like I said, you can just act. Hello.
Sorry, the chair.
He's messing with the chair, guys. I'm gonna fall off it. As much as you can interact with anyone you want through the internet so quickly, that I don't think you quite get the same chemicals in your brain when it's not face to face and you're not like properly chatting through things. You're seeing someone emoting back with you. Like that, there is nothing comparable to touching grass and talking to real people.
We're animals at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like we are built to sort of like we've got a part of our brain that's like sort of animalistic, and it's meant to see other people and not
Humans are
screens.
social creatures.
Yeah.
But it's the
Yeah.
amount of social interaction that you need, and if you might not need lots, and you might get lots of comfort.
Everyone's
from
different, yeah.
having, But I think also what you're touching on is kind of structure. How, especially with people like you who are freelance people, or who work in, you don't have putting a structure into your life. So
Yeah,
you have
that
the
was
option
something
if
that
you
took me a
wanted
long
to
time
work
to get my head around.
all night and sleep all day, you could. If you wanted to not work at all, do you know what I mean? There's when things are self-guided, how important would you say kind of a structure is? Or
So
finding that
much.
structure sort of thing.
Yeah, but what you realize very quickly is because you kind of live your entire childhood very structured. Most people's parents impose some form of structure, and school definitely imposes some form of structure. And then I moved out, so all of a sudden the home, the sort of like sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of household, there it is. Structure was kind of eliminated because I was my own boss when I was at home. And then I quit my job where I had a boss and became my own boss in a work sense. And I kind of became the only person I ever had to answer to, ever. And at first I thought that was amazing. I'm like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want, like all the time. And then very quickly, there was certain points where like I would wake up at like 5 p.m. and just awful, terrible things that I realized very quickly, like I can do this, but like it doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it was only really the latter half of last year that I went like, I really want to sort of impose a structure on myself, because I realized I feel, and that structure can be flexible. I really, really value flexibility. I'm a very scatterbrained, sort of disorganized person who sort of like almost relies on it. But to have at least a schedule I'm shooting for has been like essential to making me feel productive and valuable and sort of like healthy. And I think it's very easy, especially like when you get to uni. I think uni's a big one. I didn't really get this so much because I worked a 9 to 5 when I was in uni, and I didn't have time to think about this. But from what I understand from people I know,
Yeah, I was going to say there's lots of people around your social environment who are at university, aren't there? So you've got an idea of.
I've got an idea of it, and sort of you get to uni and like, no one's gonna like, you don't like, if you don't show up to a lecture, like nothing really happens, but you don't learn what you were supposed to learn.
Yeah.
And like, no one's gonna tell you off, but like, when it comes to the point that you actually have to try and get your degree, you're gonna go, oh shit, I didn't go to any of those lectures. And like, it's really easy to fall into that trap of, because no one is actively going to be sat there going, you need to do these things, then I don't need to do them. And I think having that sort of sense of accountability and that sense of like, I have responsibility to myself, and it is only to yourself, is essential to being like, one, sort of being good at the things you want to do, but two, actually feeling happy, because it may make you feel great in the moment to go out and get really pissed. Because that's what a lot of people do when they go to uni, to be very realistic.
Oh God, I've got years I can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah,
what the 90s were like.
and
I don't know what the early 90s were like.
No, and
I was at
equally,
a party.
my first year in Brighton was spent probably more drunk than it was sober. But like, I can tell you now, that was probably, I wouldn't say a wasted year. I think I learned a hell of a lot. I think what I learned was the lesson of, I can't be like that.
Yeah.
But if you don't have to go through that experience to learn, and you could just hear what I'm saying and trust it, that's better. So that's why I feel the need to say it. Like, you really do eventually learn that, yeah, getting pissed is quite fun, but like, in the long run, it doesn't make you feel great. And like, having that accountability actually makes you feel pretty good.
Lots of people, my sort of, especially when there was, various the crown things on, and lots of people my age talk about, where were you when you heard Princess Diana had died? That there was
Sure, yeah.
That. And other people, it was when I was in a staff room actually, and it was other teachers, and someone saying, "Oh, I was on holiday in France," and somebody, all this sort of thing. I was on a podium in a homosexual gay bar in central London, dancing, and and then we got the news, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" So it was, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. We got the news, and I was dancing on a podium in a.
God, yeah, I can imagine it was
lovely
calamity
bar.
in there.
Lovely-
Can you
yeah.
imagine the scenes in a gay bar when
Yeah,
Princess
what-
Diana
In
dies?
What gay
central
bar, by the
London, I
way?
couldn't have been anywhere better, really.
Which one?
I can't even remember.
We've been to a
must have been
few.
You're
It
a
wasn't one
frequenter
of
of
the-
gay bars in
It
London,
wasn't
aren't you?
Yeah.
one of the.
I'm-
It wasn't GAY or Shadow Lounge or any of those that.
I've,
The Black
you-
Cap.
I-
That was one we used to go to in Camden, which. Yeah.
Which one was that one? What was
It was
that?
called the Black Cap, and it was quite
not
well
familiar.
renowned. I was always the token lady with the men,
Mm.
with my gentleman friends. Why am I on about that? I don't know.
We were just on about sort
What do you
of-
think about structure? Having kind of, have you got any
Yeah.
sort of advice about
'Cause-
the importance of structure, or how you structure your
way
days?
more structured than me. You are like probably out of every YouTuber I've ever met in my life, you are the most structured, regimented person.
Now.
Yeah, sure, but like even before, even when we first got together, I still think you were up there.
All right. I think the most important thing for me was just testing stuff out and figuring out what works for me. I've realized that I really enjoy my mornings. I'm such a morning person, aren't I? And I like to get stuff done in my morning, but not stressful stuff. So that's the time when I tidy the house and like, I don't know, I just do bits and bobs. But I've only learned that through trying out different structures. I tried to be part of the 5 a.m. club. That did not last long. And I've been quite free spirited at times. I've tried to work like away from home, and I've realized that doesn't really work for me. What works best for me is having a structure.
You essentially work a 9 to
Having-
5, which is
Yeah.
like very uncommon for people that do what we do, but that is absolutely how you are at your best.
Yeah, but it is molded to what is best for me as an individual. When I like to be slow in the mornings, if I'm rushed in the morning, I feel stressed for the rest of the day, and that's something I've learned through trying out different things, taking note of what's working well, taking note of what's kind of making it not work as well, and then just trying to piece all that together and making like a customized structure for yourself is the best thing to do.
That's really interesting that you found it through kind of trial and error, and you've been flexible. You've known that you've been in that kind of iteration process of this works and this doesn't, and moving away from things that don't work, rather than beating yourself up because that thing that you'd written, just because you've written it down on a list, doesn't mean that it's the law. Have you two got time to answer a few questions? If I just have a little look on the chat.
Yeah, I
let's have a
definitely do
look.
if you've got time.
Have you? Thank you. That's lovely.
Cool.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about both people on the chat and Jack and Eleanor, that you might think might be really useful to people at this time, whether they're coming towards the end of the school and starting going somewhere else, or whether it's the other end of it where they're leaving university and going into like real life sort of thing. Oh, hello, let's have a look. There's one here. Hello, first time chat person. Lovely. Gluteus Maximus 21. What are some tips on trying to be more outgoing as an introverted person?
Ooh. I would say I'm quite an introvert, but you wouldn't know it in social situations because I'm very interested in people. I ask a lot of questions, but you need to try not to be interviewy about it. I'm just genuinely interested in like what people are doing and what they like, and like I've noticed that I ask a lot of "What's your favorite?" Insert here question, don't I?
You do.
I really do, because I'm just so interested. And I think that's the key, is like if you are genuinely interested in the questions that you're asking and the conversations that you're having, it really comes across, and you I don't know, if you are genuine, you'll come across genuine, and people respond very well to that. I think just be natural, as natural as it comes to you, because that's how you're going to attract the best tribe. If you try to put on a bit of a front, even though it might make you feel a bit more confident in those moments, if you're gaining friends through that front, you're gonna find it very difficult to then drop that front when you want to be comfortable around those friends. So I think just go into it as you are and just believe in yourself. I'm very into like woo-woo manifestation, affirmations kind of stuff because I genuinely think it works. And I think believing in yourself and believing that you can do it, or at least telling yourself that you can do it, even if you don't genuinely believe it yet, go stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes and go, you can do this. You are good at social situations. And try and remember it in the moment. Like what we were saying earlier, people don't remember the embarrassing moments and stuff like that.
No,
Like,
not at all.
just believe in yourself in those moments and it'll come naturally more and more each time, I think.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I saw an well, there's lots of interesting ones. It was from Becky. Let me find Becky06. How do I deal with not wanting to drink or go out in uni when my friends will, and you don't want to be left out? So does that mean that everybody's out being social and you don't fancy it? Is that what you're meaning, or is it more to do with the drinking? Because I don't drink. I used to drink a lot, which is why I don't drink anymore. I've been sober for 7 years, and it takes a while, I find, to get into the spirit of socializing, where everybody else is drinking and you're not. And it took me a while to get into the kind of the hang of that, and also, I think one of a young person that I know who doesn't drink, and he's very, very sociable. He tends to go out and say he's going out for an hour, and he goes out for an hour, maybe towards the beginning of the evening, before it gets messy and before people are
everyone's had a drink,
drunk loads. And he kind of that's how he, does his social life. He goes and he joins people while they're at the best, while they're having a lovely time. And then if he's not having a lovely time, he goes. He doesn't feel like he has to stay the entire evening. What do you two think about that? About the idea of not drinking, being a young person, it's total different from everybody was pissed when I was your age, but it's a whole different culture now, which I love that doesn't seem to be as much about,
I think alcohol, drinking socially is a very British thing, is what I've learned. I think I learned a lot about socializing without alcohol through going to like America and stuff, because people are more than willing to do it there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think in sort of like college culture, there's still an element of it, but it's nothing like what it's like in the UK. And I while I was boxing, didn't drink for 4 months. I can't remember. It was like 4 months, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't drink for. I went completely sober for 4 months, which obviously is nothing like 7 years, but it was, for me at the time, who had been drinking quite a lot prior, it was a long time.
Mine was a problem though. I wasn't just, I'm going to be healthy. It was, I needed to
Oh,
stop.
sure. Yeah. No,
But doing it for, stopping drinking for health and stuff like that is also, it's an ace.
Yeah.
And how was that
absolutely.
socializing when you weren't drinking? Did it make a difference?
It does. It definitely does. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be. What I found is that actually, when you really think about it, it doesn't make a difference for you. A lot of people are going to, especially in Britain, again, people are going to pressure you to try and drink. I luckily was very fortunate in the fact that I had a boxing match and I could go, no, I'm doing that thing, and everyone would be like, that's a cool thing. You have an excuse. I feel like you shouldn't need an excuse, but people will look for one. And the thing is, I've really tried not to drink very much, and I haven't done since the start of the year. I haven't not drank, but I've drank very little. And I have found that the best thing to do is just to be firm. People, especially people that, usually the people that you want to surround yourself by will be the people that accept that. I imagine if someone isn't very accepting of that, you probably don't want to be surrounding yourself with them. And it's probably a conversation that you can seriously have. But my thing is the big thing that actually really makes not drinking difficult is like FOMO. Is like this idea that like other people are having an experience that you aren't, and you don't feel like you can join in on that experience. And there also comes a point as a sober person, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Drunk people get fucking annoying about halfway through the night, don't they? I remember, because you obviously you're a lover of parties. You host a lot, and I used to always go to your parties, but I wouldn't be drinking. And they'd be like, it'd get to like the sort of last 2 hours of the night, and I never wanted to say anything. But I'm like, God, at this point, I am so, everyone is aggravating. And like they're all, and you don't feel angry because you can tell everyone is just enjoying themselves. They're all a bit drunk and like they're all having fun. But like there will come a point where you'll be like, I would rather not be here, and it's totally okay to leave
But there's
and
also
go
the
home.
thing that if you're having a brilliant time, if the environment's brilliant, and if you're not drinking, you can
Stick with it.
still have a wonderful night. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of depends. My first year of being sober, my first year anniversary of being sober happened to be when I was in New York. One of my friends, she's a musical theatre, quite a big musical theatre person. She was a lead on Broadway, so I was staying with her while she was doing, and it was her night off. And there was somebody who also I used to share a flat with in London, who's now a drag queen in America, and we all met up at Marie's Crisis, which is a piano bar down the road from the Stonewall Inn. It's a gay piano bar, LGBTQ, and all the theatre people go there, and there's somebody playing, and you just get up and do a song, and it was one of the everybody was just off the face. It was absolutely. But I had the best night, and we got home at 8 a.m, and I was sober, and it was one of the best nights out of my whole life. That we'd had this crazy night, going to several other parties in Manhattan, and then ending up at Marie's Crisis till literally after dawn.
Yeah.
I was amazed at how kind of empowering that felt to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that as well. That feeling of like, I've been able to stick with this and not had to do, like, I've just been able to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's really easy to feel like alcohol's a crutch to enjoy yourself.
And that you can't have a good time unless you've got a drink.
Yes. And you absolutely can. But I think the point I was trying to make earlier, which I think it's very important that you said what you said, because I wasn't trying to say that, at some point you got to leave. That isn't true.
No.
What I'm trying to say
I've
is,
also had really fucking boring nights out when everybody's off the face talking rubbish, and their time doesn't work the same as sober people. The hours don't work the same when you've had a drink.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is, don't let FOMO get the better of you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not enjoying yourself, you weren't going to be enjoying yourself in an hour's time. You know what I mean? Like, once you feel that the room is beyond a point that you can resonate with, it is fine to leave, and don't go home and sit thinking, oh, but maybe if I'd had a drink, I could have got on board and had a good night. Like, you weren't enjoying yourself, and you stood true to what you're trying to do, which is stay away from something. That's fine. You weren't going to enjoy yourself without like bending something that you didn't want to do, and then you'd feel regret in the morning, and like there was no situation in which staying was a good idea. But if you feel like you're having a fucking blast, then stay as long as you like. That's basically what I'm saying.
And drinking isn't a bad thing if you can do it and stay safe and stay and stay safe with it and moderate it and all of that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look. This is a good one. Let's have a look. It was from Looking for Alaska. I dropped out of A levels and not sure what's next for me. How do I find something I'm passionate about doing? That's interesting. How to find something that grabs you. Have you got any thoughts, Eleanor?
You know what? I would say you know what? This is such like school advice. Do a couple of careers quizzes online. Some of them are quite good. They will take in like your personality type and like how introverted or extroverted you are, what your interests are, and they'll spit you out some like jobs that you've never even heard of, and you're like, oh yeah, I could kind of do that. But I would also say, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I know it's hard to say because you might feel a bit behind everyone else and stuff like that, but everyone does things in their own time. I didn't know what I was going to do for a career until I was about 19 when YouTube actually started doing something. Up until then, I was doing videos for about 2 years, but I never saw it being my career. That was just like something for me to do to pass the time. And that whole 2 years I spent so stressed, worrying about what I was going to do. And if YouTube hadn't have come along and hit me in the face, something else would have, I'm sure of it. Like, that is how life works. Like, shit surprises you and you roll with the punches. And I feel like if you just try a lot of things and are open to things and do some research, the internet is your best friend, you can find things that you're interested in. And there's a lot more jobs out there than people even know
No. My
about,
God, yeah.
especially with the internet and everything. Like, have a look. Your dream job probably exists out there somewhere, but you don't even know that it's a thing yet.
That's what the internet has been so eye-opening to, like, there are so many roles in life, and, like, especially creatively as well. I didn't realize there were so many creative jobs. I kind of knew that you could be a doctor, or you could be a programmer, or you could be a teacher. Or, these things are things you hear about, but, like, I didn't realize once you see media all the time, but the amount of people that go into creating stuff that is creative is out of this world. There's so many hyper specific, like, you like sound, you can just work in sound. Did you know that? I didn't know that, but you can work with sound. Like it's just so
It's
broad.
Like, if you're really into music, there is so many things you could do. You could be a distributor, you could work in like management agencies, and you're still around music all day, every day, discovering new things. If that's something that you're really passionate about, like, there's a way to make money from it somehow.
Yeah, I feel there's always the big front-facing career. Like, when you think about music, you think about artists, right?
Yeah.
But what there is there's producers, and there's, like, I learned recently, what was it called? R&D. People who they listen to music and they tell artists, I think this is your sound and this is the direction you should go in. So all they do, they just have a good ear. That's their job, to listen to music and have a good ear. Like, there is so many, like, hidden roles within these industries that, like, not even deep research, like surface level research will get you, but you don't think to do that. And I think if you kind of try and have that foresight, you can discover so many incredible things.
And this is why I say the careers quizzes, hey,
Yeah.
that's why you find all these like kind of specific roles. Like, when I wanted to do psychiatry, I was like, I just want to work with people that don't really understand their head, and I want to kind of untie that for them. And I remember like doing one of these careers quizzes, and it was like, you could be this kind of counselor, or this kind of therapist, an art therapist. And I was like, wow, if I could draw, that'd be great.
But like what I was saying before about being a teacher, I intended to have 2 hours a week going out to lecture. And when I first started teaching at a college in it was quite a difficult college. And I had big groups of young gentlemen who hadn't done so well with their English in school, and there were 16 to 19-year-olds. And at that time, Nottingham there was quite a lot of gang stuff going on in Nottingham.
Yeah, had
And
a bad
place
reputation around them.
where I was teaching, this is about 15 years ago, the college, it was a construction college, and it was the only one sort of, and so there was people from different gangs in the same classroom who would never normally be. There was the behavior stuff was absolutely full on, and I loved it. I loved working out what you do to make sure that you're going to actually get the teaching done, because if the behaviors, if that person is going to kill that person, there's, and especially when it was groups of very very kind of masculine, hetero, those sort of quite macho sort of groups,
Yeah.
where somebody might hurt somebody else. And so the behavior stuff was so exciting to me, working out what you do to kind of to escalate a situation, what to do where
Yeah.
you know that you can just sense that there's a conflict going to happen in that side of the room, because you can see the chests going and properly going a bit pigeony and a bit like that.
Yeah.
And it was the behavior that kind of led me to do other things, and and to write about it. I wrote for the Times educational supplement for 11 years, doing a column about behavior and about that sort of thing. And so I had no idea that I was going to love education and love being with at the really difficult end of um the kind of students, because they'd had difficult situations. And I wasn't really interested in being with excellent A-level groups. I wanted the groups where I knew it was going to kick off, and part of my job was and I just loved it. Let's just look at one more. Let's have a look. Sorry,
So
Let's have a look here. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I've lost it. I'm doing quite well for the tech, though, aren't I? Considering
You're doing great.
No
I really
idea
think you're
what's
doing
happening.
amazingly.
Oh yeah. There was one, I can't find it, but I saw it and it was really good, about not wanting to. How do you manage if you don't want to be involved in the social circles that you think you should be involved in? It was somebody doing their A-levels and there's this whole social thing going on. They weren't really interested, they just wanted to get on. How do you kind of, I'm sorry, I'm completely paraphrasing what somebody had written, a really articulate message, and I can't find it. So I suppose that's to do with the idea of social pressure and groups and what you think you should be, isn't it? So have you got any thoughts on that, about the idea that you should be this thing, you should be this type of person, and put in the ideals of what being 18 or 19 is against actually what you want as an individual? You might not want all of that.
Yeah, I think you've kind of said it already, but this is something, and you'll be proud hearing this, because it's something that Tom said to me yesterday. I like that really, really like I think articulates this point the best. That like the sort of what was it? There was 3 words, and I'm only remembering 2 of them: should, could, and another one. Like there's another one. I can't think what it is right now, but it
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Maybe would. I can't remember the ud words.
Yeah.
Should and could were the main 2. And it's sort of like they're generally always negative words. There's very, very few scenarios under which those are going to serve you positively. And you should always focus on what you want out of things. And if you feel that you should be in a social situation, then trace that should back to where it comes from. If that should comes from a want, like I should be doing this because it leads me closer to something I want, then maybe it's not so bad. But if it leads to I should because this is what people say, or this is what is normal, or like sort of like these sort of outside ideas, it probably doesn't serve you in any capacity. And really, and I'm not encouraging selfishness with this, but like most things you do should ultimately serve yourself. And if it doesn't ultimately sort of lead to something you want, then I wouldn't stress about it. Like it isn't a should unless it leads to a want, I think is usually the way I see things. And that's been really healthy, but also like liberating in terms of like, if I can't figure out why I should be doing something, then I shouldn't be doing it. Like it's kind of roughly where
that's a really brilliant way of articulating it. Have you got any thoughts on this, Eleanor?
I think
it's
that
about
was really
social
good.
pressure, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of around about what I've been saying this whole time, is that like once you get out of school, you realize that you never had to do anything, and like people are going to be around you and love you no matter who you, like what kind of person you are, as long as you're not a bad person. You know what I mean? But no matter what you like, no matter how social you are, no matter anything really, no matter what your interests are, you will find people that are very much like you. So if you feel like, oh, I should be going out to the pub to, go and socialize with the people, but like if you have to push yourself to do that, then maybe the people in the pub are not your people. One thing that I did when I first moved to London, I downloaded Bumble to use Bumble BFF, right? Because I didn't love how surrounded by alcohol the social situation in London is. And I was like, you know what? I just want some gal pals to go get coffee with or to go for a walk with. And there's people out there that want that too. Like if you're sat there thinking, I'm not a pub girly, there's other girlies that are sat there thinking, I'm not either. And you're all probably wanting to meet each other. You've just got to try to go to those sober places or those places that bring in your hobbies and your interests and your skills. Go to your sports and
and when you're not the focus of it, when something else that you're having like a joint interest and that's the focus. I remember a long time ago actually, I had quite bad depression, and when I was coming out of it, I really didn't want to socialize at all, but I knew that that was part of me getting better, that I had to. And so one of the things I did, because I love theatre, but I did it going to the cinema as well. I'd meet a friend and we'd go to the cinema, and then I'd go home afterwards. So, or we'd have a cup of coffee or something afterwards. And so, you know, or if we were going to the theatre, so that was the interval, and you do a little bit of socialising then. But it was kind of this structured, contained socialising that wasn't based on me or that person. It was based on the thing that we were looking at, which is exactly what you're saying about sports or hobbies, or you know, having something else as the focus. Just before we go, I saw a lovely one that, and I've already covered it, about it. Somebody said something like, how do you ever feel like a grown-up rather than two kids stood in a trench coat? I'm assuming you mean like in a Muppet, the Muppet Man kind of way.
That's a
You
good
know, the
one.
Muppet Man, where there's 15 Muppets stood on top of each other. How do you two ever feel like you're an adult, like you're grown-ups? And what makes you feel like that if you do?
What I realized very recently is I really, really don't like the very explicit labeling of childhood and adulthood. Because there's this sort of idea that adulthood is independence and knowing what you're doing and having this direction that like you sort of lack as a child. And, you know, and I think you're always a person that doesn't quite know what's going on and always kind of needs a little bit of help. And what happens is, as you get older, you need less and less of that, and you become more self-assured, and you need less help, and you need less direction. But there, like adulthood, like there's a reason that adulthood needs to be defined in like sort of legal settings and things. But in terms of like a sort of self-identity, you are who you are. You're once a child. At some point, you'll go, I feel like sufficiently. I feel like I'm an adult at this point. But there should be no time when you're like, how do I know? You'll feel that way. And I think the important thing is, just because people are telling you that you should be an adult, you know, you've turned 18, whatever, you're an adult now, doesn't mean that you don't necessarily need guidance and help. And you can be unsure about things and you don't know what you're doing.
At
Like,
any age.
at any age at all. And I think this is the thing. Adulthood is more to do with sort of, in my opinion, like self-assurance and sort of things. And, you know, whether or not you feel particularly self-assured in a moment is like being anywhere on that spectrum is fine. Like, you know, people, there's you know, there's a reason like midlife crises are a thing that are common. It's like, because like you feel really self-assured and then all of a sudden you don't, and it freaks people out because like I'm an adult and I should be, and it's like times change and life changes and things happen, and it's like, I think this idea that like adults should be this thing is so detrimental, and like you should just always strive to be as self-assured as you can be in a moment, but there's no responsibility or like expectation that you should be in any way self-sufficient. Like, if that makes sense. I may be wording that a bit wrong, but I think hopefully the point I'm trying to get across translates.
Hi, Dan. Hi. You know what? I'll be honest, I still don't feel full adult, but I feel more adult than I ever have. I recently turned 25. And if you're younger than 25, let me give you some reassurance. Once your brain has finished developing, you feel it. You kind of feel it. Like, I feel myself having kind of like clocked on to the next stage. I feel more adult. I feel more self-assured than I've ever felt. And I think one thing that's really helped me to properly feel like an adult and no longer a child that needs like supervision and help is that I've really learned myself, and I've learned what I need in different situations. And I've been I'm trying to be unapologetic about that. I'm still struggling with that part, but I know what I'm like, and I've accepted that. I'm a very stressful person, and I think that's been a part of it. It's like, when I get stressed is when I feel the least adult, because that's when I feel like I need the most help. And there's nothing like bad about needing help, but learning myself more and being able to help myself more and just know myself more and know my triggers and know my comforts and know what makes me happy. The more you learn about yourself and the more you fit into that, the more I've just felt like me, and not necessarily an adult, but I don't know. I feel like me, and I feel like the mostly developed version of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most to an adult I've ever felt.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's brilliant. And I'd seen as I do have Dolly where is she? Dolly.
Oh yeah, she's there. I see her. Hey,
I'm
Dolly.
thinking of a Dolly quote, which is "Find out who you are and do it on purpose."
Yeah.
It's an excellent mantra for life, isn't it? Work out who you are and do it on purpose. You two, it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the lovely, lovely people in the chat. If I haven't got back to you, if you haven't picked up one of your messages, I'm really sorry. I'm just getting the hang of all this shit. Do you know what I mean? I really appreciate it. And I will be back next Thursday twatting on about something else with some friends. There we go. And thank you to the mods. Marvelous. Thank you. Very much appreciate. And that's us done.
That's us done.
Cool.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.